Welcome to the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of January 15, 2023. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. Big moves happening in the sky now. And this is such an important time. We do have what astrologers sometimes call the most intense day of the year. This is the meeting of the Sun and Pluto. In some way or another, a lot of us are facing some very difficult truth within as part of realizing what stays and what goes and what we might no longer accept as part of our pathway forward. Once we find that level of acceptance, possibly through a moment of great intensity, well, just on the other side of it is a sense of possibility and new beginnings. New ideas and new self-concepts are able to rush in that offer so much hope to us, thanks to a new moon playing out this week as well. Now you add to this what I'm calling the week of the stations, right? This is where three planets are stationed. On the one hand, last week we had Mars go direct, but appears to be standing still in the sky through this week. Mercury will go direct, but appear to be standing still in the sky this week. And at the beginning of next week, Uranus will go direct, which means throughout this week, Uranus appears to be standing still in the sky. When planets are appearing to stand still, it means that they are especially close to the Earth. Their symbolism and our understanding of how we're engaging that energy becomes that much more important at this time. So you can see here that there are so many energies playing out now that do suggest a lot of us are reaching a turning point moment. Now, as part of that, we may need to acknowledge where things are not fair, where things hurt, and yet we can see the promise of this acceptance, which is a new beginning and truly putting ourselves on pathways of forward momentum, of newfound happiness as well. So there's so much to talk about here and so much going on. Let me start with the most intense day of the year. Now, as we're beginning the week, a lot of us must be feeling that intensity growing as the sun moves closer and closer to Pluto. Pluto right now is moving through the end of the sign of Capricorn, what astrologers call an anaretic degree, which means that its energy is already that much more concentrated here. You add the sun, and the sun brings light to where it is perhaps some of us feel that we are in power struggles or power dynamics that just aren't working for us anymore. There could be a measure of truth here, but more often it's an emotional truth that we find that makes it that much more uncomfortable to accept. And yet through acceptance, we find that we're able to start changing things for the better. The energy perfects on Wednesday, after which this energy will quickly dissipate. Now, consider that there's a real feeling right now for a lot of us, especially with Mars stationed direct as of very recently. And that energy will likely be prevalent this week, but feel that much more magnified with Pluto and the sun coming into the mix. And it's the feeling that we're having to look at all the things that we have no power over. And sometimes it can feel frustrating. It can feel daunting. We may wish that we had more power to move our lives in a certain direction. And yet it is through accepting where it is that we are powerless that we end up gaining a tremendous amount of power as well. It's almost like we have to come up to that point where all of the emotion intensifies, all of our fear intensifies as well, for us to realize that and to make the choice that it will not have power over us anymore. That's the thing about fear. In some contexts, it can be very healthy, actually. Think about ancient people, right? It's a good thing to be fearful of certain animals in the wild, for example. And yet, it is now that we've come to an understanding, more and more people, where we're not necessarily battling external demons, but rather those demons have become forces within ourselves that are within. And it can still feel like a battle that stirs our fears very deeply. And yet, in some ways, that's all they truly are. They are what we are afraid of, but sometimes we need to acknowledge them if we're ever going to move past them, if we're going to lessen their power. And that is part of the opportunity now. There's going to be a moment of crescendo for a lot of us out there. It is Pluto that has been conceptualized as the higher octave of Mars. As I said, Mars is already so strongly placed in the sky, considering that Mars just very recently went direct. And so both of these energies highlighted now with the sun bringing heat to Pluto as well. Well, you can see here that all of us have a whole lot of reasons to be afraid, to feel powerless, to feel frustrated, to feel a very deep anger. Maybe we can't quite put our finger on it. And yet it's that very energy that's being asked to be addressed so that it can be transformed from the inside out. You know, whenever I look at such powerful placements, for example, with Pluto, Pluto is considered the god of alchemy. And alchemy is actually an ancient practice that goes back many millennia. And it was considered this journey of turning lead into gold. And this was a very literal journey for a lot of people. But of course, especially now, we consider this a metaphorical journey, a philosophical journey. In fact, you couldn't be an alchemist in a very literal sense without also understanding philosophy very deeply. And of course, understanding the esoteric arts very deeply as well. You weren't going to go to your ritual to turn lead into gold unless certain planets were visible at a particular time, unless you were operating within a particular planetary hour, for example. So there's this mixing of science and occultism that comes together very powerfully in this ancient practice. And while the time and place is important, the intention and spiritual clarity and philosophical clarity that the practitioner brings can be the deciding factor as to whether or not their pursuit in that moment of turning lead into gold is successful or not. But how is it that we truly define success? Success, if it isn't deeply meaningful to you, then it just isn't going to mean anything. And we all know that the whole world could tell you that you are so successful, but if it's something that doesn't resonate as the path which feels like genuine achievement, well earned for you, it just isn't going to mean as much. Well, here we have an energy that invites us to get very honest with ourselves. Where is it that either we're going to acknowledge the lead and put it down and say, you know what, I don't need to carry this anymore. That, the way that we carry baggage, we might be carrying lead from our past, the pain that weighs us down. For some of us, it's going to be an invitation to actually look at that lead and set the intention to turn it into gold. For others, we're going to be further along that journey. But regardless, in one way or another, we are looking at what it is in our life that has felt like a burden. We have to acknowledge it in order to understand what we're going to do about it. And often the most powerful thing that we can do is in the acknowledgement itself. When you name a thing, it loses power instantly so. When you're able to acknowledge a thing, right away, you've already begun the journey of moving past it. And whether that is a difficult situation, whether that is a difficult dynamic between another person, it's almost like we need to acknowledge where things are toxic, but also where we might be participating in that toxicity. So then we know better what it is that is the right thing to do. And the right thing to do ultimately is going to bring with it a measure of peace. Now that peace might be within. That peace comes through the acknowledgement of what is challenging so that we can turn it around in meaningful ways for ourselves to see the blessing that could be there. And that's a big part of what gold is. It is being able to acknowledge where there are riches here that through our fear and our resistance and our frustration, we are not readily acknowledging. And so all of us having a turning point moment, and then on the other side of this turning point moment, well, we come to, on the one hand, Mercury station direct. That happens on Thursday. With Mercury officially going direct, this is going to be a light bulb moment that becomes part of a switch turning, if you will. Mercury is in the same sign that we are going to have the sun, and we are going to have Pluto as well. And so a part of what allows us to sort of flip that switch, if you will, is going to be seeing things very differently. Very likely connected to a sense of clarity that maybe we hadn't appreciated or acknowledged until it found us. And that clarity may be where it is that we've been pursuing certain pathways that we think are going to lead us to success, but ultimately they are proving to be unfulfilling in some way. Planet stationary is always an opportunity to get honest with ourselves. Retrogrades help us to go within to see what it is that we're really feeling, to find a depth of honesty. But even that can be wrought with all our varying desires and wants, and maybe not always being very clear why it is that we want it until the direct takes place. And when the direct takes place, that light comes on and we see things very differently. And so this is an opportunity not only to see that intensity of emotion, that turning point differently, but also to understand how that fits into some larger vision of healthy ambition and success, and where it is perhaps we've been chasing lead thinking it was gold. That just isn't going to work for us going forward from here. When we're able to acknowledge where it is that we have gone off track, where we thought we were moving towards something valuable, but now is revealing itself to be ultimately shallow, that is where true freedom can be found. And that freedom ultimately is found within self, within being. Something I find fascinating, these energies of the Sun and Pluto and Mercury direct are working very much together now. It is on Wednesday that Mercury does go direct, and about 90 minutes later is when the Sun and Pluto will be exact in their connection. These energies are absolutely working together to help us to understand where it is that perhaps we have been chasing what ultimately is proving not just illusionary, but also unsatisfactory as well, unfulfilling as well. Throughout the week, Mercury and Mars are having a surprise alignment that astrologers call a quincunx. And it is this alignment that tends to bring on a need to integrate these energies rather quickly, but we find solutions and are able to address and dissipate this energy rather quickly as well. This energy is operational all week, though, because Mercury is slowly changing gears. It is going to be on Tuesday and Friday that the energies do perfect twice in a given week. And yet, again, these energies are operational all week, given how slowly these two planets are moving. And to me, this represents a moment where some communication can seem harsh, or some communication on your part provokes a very strong reaction from another. Whether it's us that is being provoked or the other person, we have to respond rather quickly in a moment, or at least decide what response we want to choose in a given context and in a given moment as well. Just keep in mind that with a week like this, people are especially sensitive to what they're talking about, what they're hearing, what they're listening to, what they're expressing, what they're reading. These are all forms of communication now that can have ways in which they reach people that perhaps we need to respond to rather quickly as well. Now, this can also be sort of in a larger sense, I will say, sort of on a level of the collective. This can represent news or information coming out very quickly and people being surprised or stirred to emotion very quickly and needing to address a matter as well. Now, it may have to do with very Gemini mercurial matters having to do with, for example, what's happening with the media, but it could also be just what we're collectively talking about at this time as well. Perhaps some power dynamics or power abuses become something that more of us start talking about as information comes to light rather quickly at this time. With a week filled with so much intense energy, the beginning of the week might actually be described as jarring. I'm so sorry to say, but look, we've got Venus speaking in a conversation of tension with Uranus. Venus square Uranus makes for shocking moments in love, but sometimes money or self-love as well. And so this is a chance to be honest. The further off we've gone towards fantasy and hope, the more it is that we are in our own heads, in our own minds, in our own imagination, given that Venus is in the sign of Aquarius, well, it's going to be that much more jarring and that much more shocking when we're brought down to earth. And yet, there's something about the truth that is also necessary, especially at a time like this. Getting honest about what we really want, where we really are, and how it is that now we may want to or are meant to move forward from here. Love, when it is honest, is that much more meaningful. It's wonderful to have hope and fantasy. It is needed if we're going to engage love, especially where it is that we want to give love another try. Love is one of those things when we open ourselves towards intimacy, it can be a place of great vulnerability. And when it doesn't work out, it can feel that much more painful. And so, yes, we do need to have a measure of hope and belief in order to engage that especially brave part of us that wants to align with greater love and greater romantic love as well. When these moments do come along that sort of shake us out of a fantasy and show us how things actually are, well, in some ways that can be a very positive thing, very liberating. And as we see the truth, we start to align with love that becomes that much more meaningful as well, whether it is with the object of our affection or in a different direction. Now, I would also add Venus being goddess, not only of love, but also of beauty and enjoyment. Whatever you've got planned to enjoy your life, well, things may go in a very different direction. Romantic surprises really do not go as planned. They are not a good idea, especially as we begin the week. And I would also add with this look, if you are interested in engaging this energy on a level of beauty treatments, perhaps, or perhaps something more permanent like tattoos or cosmetic procedures, this energy is very famously not the time. I'm so sorry to say that. You might have had that appointment booked with that tattoo artist for a long time, a very in-demand person, not being autobiographical here, maybe a little bit, but yeah, you might have had that, but this would not be the time to pursue that. I will tell you, just that the results end up being very different. The experience ends up being perhaps not as easy or as pleasurable as you would have hoped. And so the urge you have to make dramatic changes to the aesthetics of your life, to celebrate your unique beauty in dramatically and uncharacteristically new ways, well, you just might change your mind just as quickly as well. And so pace yourself, but of course, always do what feels right for you to do in light of your unique circumstances. And if you do it, then do it with no regrets, no holding back, and enjoy. It is at the end of the week that the energy changes dramatically. So I really think that it's almost like night and day, the energy that we start the week with and the energy that we end the week with. While at the beginning of the week, we are really having to dig very deeply within, acknowledge painful truths. It's like in an instant, we get to the end of the week and the energy lifts in ways that are going to surprise a whole lot of us out there. And that is because we are going to have a new moon take place at the very beginning of the sign of Aquarius. That happens as we end the week on Saturday, the day before we do have the sun moving into the sign of Aquarius. So happy birthday to all the Aquarians out there as you begin your birthday month. Well, Aquarius energy, as it contrasts with Capricornian energy, well, you can imagine these are very different. On one level, we can look at the difference of element. It is Capricorn that is an earth sign. And so it has a part of it that is very practical, grounded, that looks at what is being manifested and whether or not we feel good about what we are practically living in a real sense. It is the energy of Aquarius that is an air sign that has to do with thoughts, that has to do with ideas. And with Aquarius, it's all about the new ideas, the looking forward, the next chapter. And it is by engaging the world of ideas, but also engaging other people. It's an energy that has to do with, on the one hand, the individual, but it also has to do with the collective as well. It's a very social energy. By engaging other people as well, we're able to lift our spirits, but also expand our horizons at this time. It is this new moon that has a beautiful alignment playing out with Jupiter. I am so encouraged by this energy. It's that Jupiterian alignment that does speak to us being able to cultivate hope in a meaningful way, being able to have new ideas that inspire us to consider how it is that we can improve our circumstances. But then there's also the motivation to take action as a result of those new ideas and very quickly reap benefit and reap reward as well. Now, this new moon is also making some what astrologers call wide alignments. So basically, they're not very exact in terms of orb. They're not very precise alignments. And yet, we may very well experience these energies being asked to be part of the new beginnings that any new moon does promise, especially at this time. So one is a supremely harmonious alignment with Mars. So that is energizing, that fuels new ideas that much more. It fuels our desires to be connected to other people, to be spontaneous, to be social, to interact with others. I think there's going to be a real sense of a lift as to how more and more of us are likely going to want to be connected to others, but also we're taking action. We're taking steps to make those connections with others as well, more willing to have those random conversations as we move through our day and move through our life. Now, the other is that this new moon is in alignment with the nodes as well. And this is a wide square to the nodes. And what this represents is that we understand what it is that may be beginning now is part of aligning us with some very profound soul lessons that could be taking place in our lives as well. It isn't just about the fact that we are more willing to engage other people, but we understand that this is where our soul growth is. We may make connections with others where we feel that much more connected, even if it isn't necessarily the most comfortable connections we might have with others. When the nodes are activated, it always brings with it new people, places, things, and situations. But it can also bring with it, especially with alignments like this, a sense of closure as well, of understanding that our soul is on a journey and that we have so much more yet to do in this lifetime, so much more to grow, so much more to learn about ourselves and our pathway ahead. And that sense of clarity within, even if it is an uncomfortable clarity, ultimately is meant to empower us, to inspire us to action. And it is that very action now that brings with it an adrenaline rush thanks to Mars and brings with it an engagement of life that fuels hope that much more, creating a positive momentum for the new beginnings promised now with this new moon. What I love about this week for us, there's so much here. It's a powerful and meaningful astrological moment. Wow, what a phenomenal moment we are in. This is a week with this whole range of energies. We go from the most intense day of the year right out of the gate in a brand new year, thanks to the sun meeting Pluto, but we've got this overall concentration of energies with fully 3 planets standing still in the sky. Mars last week continues to stand still now. Mercury stations direct, and at the beginning of next week, it will be Uranus that stations direct. Once Uranus goes direct, all major planets are going to be direct for 3 months. And so this really is the week that sets the stage for a sense of momentum that moves us forward in all kinds of ways in the months ahead. And yet, before we can really enter that sense of us moving towards the new and the next and the exciting and seeing things more clearly, it's almost like we have to get to some core understanding, even if it's hard. Now, part of that understanding may be where it is that certain circumstances have become more troubled in their worth, more burdensome than we know they should be, or have in some way felt as if they are now dragging us down, when a renewed desire to live that much more fully is starting to take over more and more as we navigate this time. And I think that just might be the great gift now. We are tapping into a sense of lightness and excitement and enthusiasm for what a very promising year ahead is suggesting that we just might get to experience, that we just might get to live that much more fully. And as part of that, yes, if you're going to be engaged in life, it means you're going to feel things more deeply. If you want to know the highs of life, it means that sometimes we have to accept that there are lows as well. Well, this week has the whole range of it, right? The intense lows, but also these very affirming highs that reminds us that yes, there's so much more left to do in this lifetime, and the best truly is yet to come. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys. And to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it means so much. I'm so very grateful for it. And of course, if you want to know all the wonderful things that this week promises for you and your sign, log on now to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com, where you get expanded, exclusive video scopes each and every week for each and every sign for as low as just $3 a month. Would choose your membership rate. Now, higher tiers get you things like all access passes to Synchronicity University events, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. I look forward to meeting you there. Synchronicity University has some incredible programs taking place right now. Right now, you can sign up for single classes and see some truly brilliant and world-renowned teachers learn from the best at synchronicityuniversity.com. Our speaker series is underway. This weekend, by the time this is publishing, we would have had Wade Caves teaching some basics on Hori astrology. And so you can now purchase that class as a download at synchronicityuniversity.com. Now, this coming week, we have our big dog, our superstar astrologer, the one and only Christine Skinner. Christine is a world-renowned expert in financial astrology. She really is such a bright star, one of our living legends, especially in the financial astrology field. She has written so many books as well on the subject that have really changed lives, help people to understand and live prosperity very differently than they knew before. Well, she's going to be teaching us some basics on financial astrology and tapping into your chart to understand abundance there. This is going to be and promises to be an incredible class to take with the one and only Christine Skinner. Links are in the description below, but you can sign up now for single classes as part of this January 2023 speaker series. The classes that have been, the classes that are yet to be. You can sign up now at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below. Mark Lawrenson's class on the lunar nodes is proving to be so popular. Lots of people signing up for single classes as well and learning so much from the one and only Mark Lawrenson. Now, this week he's going to be looking at aspects to the nodal axis. So this is going to be a very special class if you want to understand how planets aspecting your nodes. Well, what does that mean for you? Understanding your natal chart that much more deeply and so much more. So you can learn more about this single class coming up this week at synchronicityuniversity.com. Check out the link in the description below. And of course, Cameron Allen is also continuing his course on medical astrology. He's teaching a class this week on planetary energetics and really teaching it as only he can, helping you to understand the spiritual, the physical, all of it, how it comes together in the planets and understanding how to move yourself towards the best state of health possible. Just wonderful classes to start a brand new year with. And that too, links are in the description below or visit synchronicityuniversity.com. Now stay connected to me on social media. Be on the lookout for new classes that are going to be coming up at Synchronicity University. We'll have new sessions starting in March, but of course we always do the choose your tuition rate on the lead up, and we have some wonderful surprises. I think you're really going to like some of these courses that are coming up. Some favorites are back. Some big dog astrologers are going to be with us as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. So be on the lookout for that. If you're not already following me on social media, please do. On Instagram is where I'm especially active, but Facebook as well, TikTok, and here, of course, on the community page and so much more on my YouTube channel and, of course, my newsletter as well. And thank you. Thank you so much for this moment with you. Thank you for your trust. Thank you for your love and for seeing me as some part of your sacred journey. I'm truly so grateful for it. And thank you again for watching. It'll be a great week. Enjoy.